Okay. Welcome to another video covering the Diddy's trial. Man, thank y'all for the love and the support on the channel. All the shares, the taps on the likes, uh, everything. Thank y'all so much. Make sure y'all understand that when you hit the like button, it helps the algorithm. And when you share it, and when you comment any activity on the channel, it helps the algorithm. So I want to say thank you to all for coming back, watching these videos of mine on my channel. All right, so next is the 11 shocking moments in P. Diddy's victim, Mia, testimony, right? So the thing about it is this, you guys. Now, Mia is P. Diddy's assistant. Now, this trial has been going like a roller coaster to me, like a roller coaster. But when I heard the things in this video, I think this testimony might be the testimony that I thought Cassie was going to put Diddy in the slammer for his life. But Mia's testimony is the one I think that's going to put Diddy in the slammer for the rest of his entire life. It's chilling. So it's going to be kind of touching, you guys. Just let you know in advance.
And she's testifying about physical and sexual assaults that she claims she suffered at the hands of Sean Combs. I go through the most shocking moments from Mia's testimony so far and how the jury is reacting.
Shout out to the Law and Crime Network. This is where this video is being watched at.
Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Chaotic, toxic, and sometimes exciting. That's how a second alleged victim of Sean Combs described what it was like to work for him as she took the stand in his racketeering and sex trafficking trial in New York. Now, Combs, to be clear, he's pleaded not guilty to all of the charges he's facing, and he says he's never sex trafficked or sexually assaulted anyone. Judge Submaranian is allowing this woman to testify under a pseudonym. It's Mia. But the jury learned her real name. Her passport was shown to the jury only and submitted into evidence under seal. Sketches of Mia show she has blonde hair and wore a tan outfit on her first day on the stand, but the sketches are faceless to protect her identity. Courtroom observers said that she walked into court with her head down, possibly in fear or shame, and some say people in the courtroom cried during Mia's testimony and that jurors actually looked down at times.
See, right there. You heard what she said just now? She said that Mia walked inside the courtroom. Some people actually cried in the courtroom. The jurors held their head down. Those two things are never a good sign. Those are the worst things you want to see whenever you're being prosecuted. Whenever you're in the position of what Diddy's in the position of right now and what he's facing, with his life behind bars, or whatever, how many years he may get consecutive life sentences. You never know. Or he may win. We never know. That's why he's being tried. But whenever she walked into that courtroom, the reaction from the courtroom, I know Diddy defense team was pretty much like, dang, should we go on with this case, or should Diddy take a plea? If he can take another decision to take a plea or choose guilty, what should we do at this point? The defense team should be in shambles right now.
Mia raised her right hand, as other witnesses have, and swore to tell the truth. The beginning of her testimony touched on the violence and sexual assault she says she suffered at the hands of Sean Combs. Mia said, "He has thrown things at me. He has thrown me against the wall. He has thrown me into a pool. He has thrown an ice bucket on my head. He has slammed my arm into a door. He has also sexually assaulted me." Prosecutor Madison Smizer asked, "Did Mr. Combs sexually assault you on one occasion or more than one occasion?" Mia responded, "More than one." Mia testified that she's originally from Virginia Beach and she wanted to work in the arts. She said that she thought if she put her mattress on top of her car and drove to New York City, that she could do it. So I thought I could just put a mattress on the top of my car and move to New York City and get a job somehow in the entertainment industry and work really, really, really hard. And maybe in like 10 years, I would have had the education and experience to navigate that world to make whatever those dreams were come true. Mia said she got a couple of jobs, one for a fashion designer, and she also worked as an assistant for Mike Myers. Then she said she met with a recruiter and others to get a job working for Sean Combs. Now, get this. Mia said she went to Sean Combs' apartment for the interview. She said he answered the door and he was on the phone and only wearing underwear. She said he eventually put on some clothes and she got the job. Mia said, I was so excited, so nervous, and just really eager and excited. Mia said she was on a 2-week trial period when she first started to see if she had what it would take to work for Sean Combs. She expected to work a lot and was supposed to be paid overtime. Her salary was supposed to be $55,000 per year, but it ended up being $50,000. And on her first day of work, Mia said she worked 24 hours straight and then some. And one time, Mia said she actually worked 5 days straight without sleep, taking Adderall for her ADHD to stay awake. Mia said she burst into tears. Her hearing started to go like she was underwater, and Puff, that's what she called Sean Combs, told her she could go to sleep. Mia said her roommates actually joked that they lived with a ghost. That's how often she was not at her apartment. Now, that
Wow.
part is important. It's part of the RICO charge and the forced labor that the government alleges. One time, Mia said Combs wanted to know what she did all day and told her to send a list to HR. Part of it said, protect him at all times, his privacy, etc. Stay attached to BlackBerry 24/7, staying within PD's eyesight unless he advises otherwise, always while on duty. Listening, asking, hearing, prioritizing, and translating PD's situation, maintaining PD's daily routine in both professional and private circles from the minute he wakes up in the morning until the moment he falls asleep at night, and even in the interim, anticipating his needs, whims, and moods. The world can be a really scary and unpredictable place, and that's where our part.
Bro, what? This is the most craziest HR that I have ever heard of. That to me, that's slavery. Bro, that is crazy. It's crazy. Like I said, this Mia victim is going to be the one that sends Puffy out of here, bro. This is getting weirder and weirder, bro.
Holmes's moods were important because they dictated the entire day. Another part read, every single day is different. PD can ask you to do 17,000 things at one time that range from cracking his knuckles to writing his next movie to doing his taxes. He can also just have you standing next to him for 22 hours and not ask you one
Dang.
thing. Mia testified that part of her job was to keep tabs on Cassie, and this was how she got to know Cassie, and the two became friends. Mia echoed the testimony of other witnesses that Combs had final approval of Cassie's hair, makeup, and clothes, and that he would take away things like her car and jewelry if he couldn't reach her. Then Mia recalled an incident at one of Combs's homes in 2009 or 2010. Mia said, I remember upstairs like loud, like thuds. That's what it sounded like something hitting the wall. And the way that the second floor was is that you can look down into the foyer from it, and that's where his bedroom was, up on the second floor. And I just remember seeing suitcases being thrown over like into the foyer. After this, Mia said she saw Cassie hiding outside in a bush, shaking and crying and motioning to her as if to say, I'm not here. Mia also told the jury about the incident Deontay Nash testified to, where Combs showed up at Cassie's apartment because she wasn't answering her phone. Mia said both she and Nash tried to stop Combs from attacking Cassie, and this is when Combs threw Cassie into a bed frame and blood started gushing from her head. In this incident, Mia said Combs threw her against the wall as she and Nash tried to stop Combs. He immediately snapped into this protector survivor mode. He told me to get Kayla, who was the assistant at the time, who had relationships with the doctors. Get Kayla on the phone and tell her to call Dr. So-and-so and tell him that Cassie needs to see them immediately because she was drunk and fell and hit her head. That wasn't the only violence Mia said she witnessed against
Wow.
Cassie. There were many other instances,
Damn.
including one during a trip to Turks and Caicos, where Mia said she and Cassie paddled into the ocean on paddle boards to stop Puff and to escape him. The sky turned black, and she debated what was worse, facing Mother Nature or Puff? Asked whether she ever called the police, Mia said no, and she explained why. Mia said, I believed that Puff's authority was above the police. This was also a time period. This is years and years before social media, Me Too, or any sort of example where someone had stood up successfully to someone in power, such as him. Also, like I was taught to believe that this was fell under the
This is crazy.
confidentiality or
This is crazy,
loyalty
bro.
of like Puff's business. Mia also told the jury about cleaning up after these hotel nights where Combs and Cassie would spend anywhere from 1 to several nights in a hotel. She said the rooms were a nightmare. Mia said, I saw a lot of candle wax everywhere that was like impossible to get out. There would be lots of wet towels everywhere. I've seen broken glass, water all over the floor, sometimes blood, oil all over, furniture and walls and things like that. Smizer asked, You mentioned blood. What, if anything, did Mr. Combs tell you about the source of the blood? Mia responded that it was period blood. Mia testified that
Okay, now this part I may have to edit out, but you guys can read, right? You see what was on the screen. All right. So the thing about it is this. The fluids, whenever you hurt yourself, right? The fluids that come out your body, which is everything that pumps the heart and everything, that fluid, menstrual, female menstrual, sometimes be all over the rooms, bro. So Cassie said it before in her testimony. She said sometimes she would have to do these freak off sessions while Mother Nature is flowing out of her body. So that could explain exactly why it was probably some of the body fluids all over the room. That's what Mia is saying.
Sean Combs sexually assaulted her on several occasions. The first time, she said it happened in the penthouse at the Plaza Hotel on Puff's 40th birthday. She said Combs called her into the kitchen and told her they would be working closer together and that she was doing a great job. Mia said Combs gave her 2 vodka shots and they hit her particularly hard. She said he kissed her and put his hand up her dress. Mia said she awoke the next morning. Mia also said there were times she would stay at Sean Combs's homes or at staff housing, and she said Combs kept tabs on her whereabouts, and she was not allowed to lock her bedroom door, but members of the security
Damn.
team could lock their doors. She described another time in 2009 or 2010 when she said she was at one of Combs's homes in Los Angeles asleep on a bottom bunk, and she awoke to Puff on top of her. She said he used one hand to remove her pants, and he sexually assaulted her. It was very fast. Mia, when asked, said she didn't want these sexual encounters, but she said she couldn't say no to anything from Sean Combs, not even a sandwich. There was another time, Mia said, she was packing Combs's bag and he walked into the closet with his private parts exposed and forced her to perform oral sex on him. Mia said these sexual assaults happened when Cassie was not around, and the sexual assault where he forced her to perform oral sex made her feel like trash. Mia also described physical assaults. In one instance, she said Combs slammed a door on her arm. In another, she said she needed a break. She'd been working since 8 a.m. without a break and needed to change her tampon. Mia said Combs threw a bowl of spaghetti at her and chased her, cursing at her. On another occasion, Mia said they were on a movie set and the Wi-Fi wasn't working, and Combs was furious and threw a computer at her head, but it didn't hit her. Mia said she ran out of the trailer and hid. Prosecutor Smizer asked Mia why she agreed to testify, and she responded, because I have to tell the truth, the whole truth. She said she didn't want to discuss the assaults in public, saying it's the most traumatizing, worst thing that's ever happened to me. Mia said sometimes Combs acted like her best friend. Other times, he made her feel like a piece of crap. Mia also told a story about she and Cassie sneaking out of a hotel room in Los Angeles to go to a party at Prince's home. She said they weren't supposed to leave the hotel. Mia said Sean Combs showed up and they ran, and Combs chased after them and he grabbed Cassie, but a member of Prince's security staff intervened, pulling Combs off of her. Mia then testified about a time she went with Cassie to South Africa, and Cassie found out that Combs had cheated on her with a woman named Gina. Gina is victim 3, who's now MIA. The government cannot find her. Mia said Cassie stopped answering Combs's calls, and Combs said she was fired and threatened to kill her. Enter Christina Coram, Combs's former chief of staff. Mia said Coram wrote to her, I need to talk to her, not sure what to do. He needs you to call him now, or you don't have a job. Mia said Combs texted her that she better call him, or he would tell Cassie everything, and they would go to war. Mia said tell everything meant tell Cassie about the sexual assaults. Mia said she told Christina Coram she was having night fears and anxiety attacks. I want to bring in Matthew Russell Lee. He is the founder of the Inner City Press, also reporter for the outlet, and he has been in the courtroom every day covering this case. Matthew, thank you so much for coming on. First
Sure.
of all, I want to talk about Mia. I want to start at the beginning. Talk to me about her demeanor when she came in, because it's my understanding she had her head down, obviously appeared maybe frightened, scared, like she didn't want to be there.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, the first thing I need to say is that we were told very in no uncertain terms, both by the judge and by the prosecutor's office in an email they send out, you can't identify her. A lot of people were unclear about how we should describe her, even in terms of like what she looked like. Obviously, there's no photographs, but I know the court artists, and they were required to draw her with a sort of no face.
Mhm.
I'll say beyond. So yeah, she has, without getting too much into her appearance, since it's unclear how much we can say. Yeah, her face was she seemed very uncomfortable, and I think that even more so, I would say, often her testimony was kind of halting. I mean, some cynics that I know were saying like they're going to, today is the cross examination, they're going to tear her up, or like she seemed sort of. I don't personally. I just thought that it's very painful for her to say these things. She
Yes,
really struggled to
facts.
say the actual acts, and the dynamic was strange because the prosecutor was very insistent that she say that, obviously you want her to say the words, but I thought actually the prosecutor came off as a little bit harsh. um
Hmm.
but I think, I mean, not harsh, but it was like, for example, she was like, and then he was inside me, and she's like, he put his penis inside you, which is hard. It's the way in which someone might cross-examine someone. I think the idea behind it is to really, one, get the facts on the record, maybe to prepare for cross, and maybe to bring out to the jury just how painful the incident was. But she was a very different witness than let's say, than Cassie or Dawn Richard or Capricorn Clark. And it may be effective because it really shows it speaks for itself in terms of the trauma.
Mm.
Yeah, and as a woman, I can just tell you, I've never been through what she's describing, but saying that out loud, I
No,
think would be
sure.
very difficult in a room full of people,
The only thing, remember,
No,
especially in front of the.
not to mention she don't know exactly where Puff Daddy's privacy been. He could have been spreading a disease that you can't get rid of at any given moment. She's doing freak offs. She's seen the blood all over the rooms, the encounters. She's his assistant. So she's seen a lot of things. Can you imagine him spreading a STD or worse? And she's being forced into catching it. That's crazy. That's a nightmare.
Person
That's a
you're
nightmare, bro.
accusing of doing it. And that brings me to my next question. How is Sean Combs, from your vantage point, how is he reacting and what is he doing as she is making these allegations? Because this is not talk about a freak off. This is talk of he raped me. I'm waking up in a bunk and my boss is on top of me sexually assaulting me, or my boss is giving me vodka, and I take a few shots and I start feeling weird, and he's kissing me and putting his hand under my dress. I mean, and she's saying, she was sexually assaulted multiple times, that she felt she couldn't say no.
No, sure. I mean, I think there have been a couple of times that he's put his head in his hands, but I'd like to say it was out of, shame and guilt at her testimony. I didn't really see. I didn't. The timing didn't tie it to that. And I do want to. This is not. I think what they're going to say is they're going to say, but she continued working there. Not only did she not go to the police, I think that the prosecutors have tried to explain that, but they had her narrate an incident in which she was driving. She was stopped while driving without a license. And she said, I work for Sean Combs. The police were like, we don't believe you. She called him on the phone, and the police were like, oh, Puffy, I love you, and let her go. So the implication being that even if she were to try to report to the police, nothing would happen. They've set that up. But as with Capricorn Clark trying to go back to work, I think, and it may be also the psychology of Sean Combs. He may have thought, I interpreted consent because you came back to work the next day. Of course, there's
Yeah.
all this testimony about that she couldn't leave the compound, et cetera, and that if she did, D-Rock came after her. I have to say, yesterday, more than even the days before, it starts to come off kind of like a cult, if you see what I mean. Like, for
Yeah,
example,
like
when
they're
she
being
went,
held there. Like
yeah,
you
and so
can't
even if,
you
yeah,
can't
even if,
leave. Like you can't go see your friends, even if you're on your off hours. You know, you can't go to a party at Prince's house and all this stuff.
right, no, absolutely. But I think, and I'm expecting to hear this from Brian Steele today. It's true that it's a very abusive workplace. Probably, call OSHA or whatever. But you can't. There's yet to be. I guess that's the purpose of the testimony of Cassie saying she was in South Africa and he was still blowing up her phone, or she was in Connecticut and he flew to New York. I mean, I think that the argument they're going to make is it can be very all-consuming, and you could feel that you couldn't leave. But in fact, if you just quit and flew to your hometown, would in fact they deploy D-Rock and Uncle Paulie to bring you back? We've yet, not that they have to show that, but I think I mean, the window for their defense is getting narrower and narrower. And I think that her testimony really is, I mean, it's terrible what happened to her. Don't get me wrong in terms of trying to look at how it plays out. But I think you're absolutely right. They're going to try to say that, Cassie was a participant. She bought supplies. She arranged the escorts. As crazy as it might seem to some, it's nobody's business what his sex life was like. But this is outright rape. This is something I think people can relate to. It made me think a lot about the Weinstein case, which I've also covered. It's in the state court nearby, where someone, forces themselves on someone who's then, traumatized. You also have that element of sometimes people coming back and seeking a job or taking a flight. And he was convicted. It was overturned. I'm sure that the defense of Combs is looking at that case, even though the legal issues between the state and the feds are different, and saying there's one other action that's made me think they never charged Weinstein and his film company as a RICO conspiracy, right? They just charged him with the actual sexual acts under this New York law that allows you to go back in time. So I think, if this is a RICO conspiracy, it seems to me that Weinstein is as well, because you had the similar testimony of assistants that worked 20 hours a day, that drove him in a 4x4 to basically force himself on prospective employees in a Soho hotel. This is more. The violence is more. There's the allegation of guns. There's the buying of drugs. There's more, but it's a similar kind of pattern of a company turning into a rape machine, if you wanted to put it that way, or just into a machine to placate the sick and twisted and violent and criminal desires of its kingpin. So that's going to be, I think a lot on the jury. They can feel that all these acts are bad, but the acts all have to add up to a racketeering conspiracy, and that's going to be a question.
Yeah. And so do you think it sounds like you're maybe skeptical that the jury will potentially see it as that, because, there's still some trial to be, we're still early in this. We're at the end of week 3 now. And I can see, where they're building this RICO case, that there was an enterprise. You've got people working together to help facilitate what Sean Combs wants. You've got the forced labor, you've got, the alleged kidnapping of Capricorn Clark, you've got, Mia and these sexual assaults. And it sounds like,
Wow.
he's using the company to do all of this. So, but are you skeptical that the jury may see this as RICO?
I realistically, covering enough of these cases, their batting average is extremely high. So I think, you're covering something, so you don't want to say it's a slam dunk. I can see, I think that the argument they're going to make is that, and don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to be dismissive of how terrible these acts are. But if you worked at a small trading firm in Manhattan, and among other things, you told your employees to go out and make illegal bets for you on horse racing, does it mean that the purpose of your organization was the crime? And what they're going to point to is to say these were major companies. There may have been some blurring of the lines. I'm not making their defense for them, but there may have been blurring of the lines between his personal hotel nights. But there was also like the sale of clothing all over the world. There was a huge vodka deal. And so it was sort of, it was a blurring, but it definitely, I think, like the purpose of the mafia is crime, right? The purpose, and that's
Right.
not, I'm sure the prosecutors are going to say, hey, the statute is what it is. It's not only for the mafia. That's why it's been applied to drug gangs. And that's true. But it hasn't, you always have civil cases where people are trying to describe an organization they don't like as a RICO conspiracy. It rarely works, right? You work for the Board of Ed, they fire you, they retaliate against you, and you bring a RICO case and you say, the Board of Ed is a racketeering enterprise. This almost never works. I feel that their batting average is high and they have a lot of elements. So they probably can pull it off, but I think that's why we haven't seen the defense case, and they said yesterday there's going to be a long defense case. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it's true either. I think that could be kind of bluster. So people say, whoa, he's got a lot of defenses. Often what happens is that they say there's going to be a big defense case, and then there's like one witness, a summary chart, and they close. So we'll just have to see. I'm sort of hoping for that, frankly. But the best, not the best, I think the pinnacle would be if Combs testifies. Then you'd really get to the bottom of it.
Yeah. But that could be very risky for him on a number of fronts.
Sam Bankman-Fried did it. So, they're very similar. They're not similar. I don't want to malign Sam Bankman-Fried that much, but there's this kind of megalomania of feeling like, hey, I mean, I honestly believe, yes, he was horrible, but he believed that this is the way a man should be. There's this telling incident where he tells the stylist and you don't know how to like please it. Like he believed this is how life should be. I think a lot of this goes back to, like, I hate to say it, like he didn't have the world's best childhood. I don't think it's a defense. I don't think they've given notice of any kind of like mental issue as part of their defense. But there's something really weird about that. It's not for me to say.
Yeah,
it's not a crime to be weird, but
he's learned this
it's twisted.
somewhere. I don't think he just came up with it in his head. So back to Mia though. I mean, they've said before, his lawyers have said, this guy's never sex trafficked anyone. He's not a rapist. He's never raped anybody. So they're going to say any sex that he had with anybody was consensual. How is the jury appearing to react to this testimony from what you can see?
I mean, I've seen some very kind of horrified looks, but during the Cassie testimony, which they're going to try to say is more in the nature of sort of deviant, but consensual. This was different in kind. So I think this is very damaging testimony for them. And I think to get into kind of the nitty gritty of how the defense is deploying its forces, he has like 10 lawyers there, not every day. One only came in to cross-examine the expert, Don Hughes, but they've used Mark Agnifilo, the lead lawyer, for many of the big cross-examinations, including. But they've now deployed Brian Steele, who had this big victory in Georgia in the
Right.
rap trial, and he's pretty aggressive. I mean, he's very polite. He's a kind of a Southern gentleman, but he doesn't play around. He doesn't say like, "Oh, cool, let's go through this. If you're not comfortable, just tell me." That's how Agnifilo starts up. So I think that they're deploying a male cross-examiner that's pretty aggressive. To me, indicates that they view this as if not possibly the key witness, for just the reason you said. She's not as high profile. In fact, no one's supposed to know her name. I think people may have figured it out, which is unfortunate. Whatever. I'm not saying it, but because of the force, because there was no allegation that she was a girlfriend and he sort of didn't. It's going to be something this afternoon. I believe. I don't know if they're going to try to push, the defense is going to try to push the cross-examination into Monday. There's some rumblings of that. The prosecution has tried to say they want to get her off the stand today and back to her life.
Right.
And they said they'll do that. And supposedly Steele has said he's only going to take an hour and a half or two. I mean, only. It's going to be very grueling for her.
But he said he's really bad with estimates,
she'll be finished today. Yeah, but I could see them almost as a matter of hoping like she'll have not second thoughts, but like, this is a key witness for them. I totally agree. Whether it doesn't, it's not so much the RICO thing. It just really nails home that this is not consensual and violent. There's no allegation of contempt and of consent and misunderstanding.
Well, we really appreciate your time, Matthew. Thank you so much. Follow the Inner City Press on Twitter, on X.
All right, so man, like I said earlier, you guys, Mia's testimony is going to be the one that sent Diddy to the slammer for a very, very, very long time, if not the rest of his life. Now, Cassie, okay, that was in a relationship. Diddy and Cassie, of course. But Mia was just an assistant. And the things, it sounded like Mia went through the same things Cassie went through. Man, Diddy is, I call him a monster. Call Diddy a monster all the time, you guys. But at the same token, it's getting worse. It make me don't even want to cover the trial, bro. If it wasn't for you guys, I probably wouldn't listen to no more. This is diabolical.